Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. India has decided a third term for Prime Minister Modi, but not the kind of win that he'd hoped for. His party, the BJP, is still the single largest party, but for the first time in 10 years, they do not have majority. The era of coalition politics is back in India. Prime Minister Modi will have to accommodate his allies. His party suffered a setback in its strongholds in the Hindi heartland, especially in Uttar Pradesh, where the Ram temple did not rally the voters as expected. And the Samajwadi party made significant gains. Another key contest was West Bengal, where Mamata Banerjee held fort and the BJP failed to make the gains it was counting on. Regional allies like Nitish Kumar in Bihar and Chandrababu Naidu in Andhra Pradesh have emerged as kingmakers. Whichever way you look at it, it's a stunning result. For a change, no side is blaming electronic voting machines, and exit pollsters stand exposed. They got it completely wrong. Their projections were way off the mark. As the results came in, the markets crashed today. It's been quite a dramatic day. And after a heated election that stretched beyond a month, if you were looking for calm, we have news for you. Brace yourselves for a lot more political drama in the days ahead. On Vantage tonight, we'll bring you the numbers, the analysis and the reactions. But first, the top headlines from across the world. Iran wants the nuclear watchdog of the United Nations vows a response if the UN body approves a new resolution against it. The UK, France and Germany want more accountability from Tehran over its nuclear program, but the US has opposed the move, fearing it will worsen tensions in West Asia. Mediator Qatar says no clear position from Israel on the Gaza ceasefire deal. Hamas is also yet to respond to the deal proposed by US President Joe Biden. Qatar, along with the US and Egypt, has been engaged in months-long negotiations for a ceasefire in Gaza. South Korea suspends a 2018 tension-reducing military deal with the North. It comes after Pyongyang bombarded Seoul with trash-filled balloons. The move allows Seoul to resume live fire drills and restart loudspeaker propaganda campaigns along the border. In India, a Sukhoi fighter jet of the Indian Air Force crashes in Nashik. The pilot and co-pilot managed to eject safely. The aircraft, which was on a test sortie, was recently overhauled by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. A technical snag is being blamed for the crash. Nigeria's labour unions suspend their indefinite strike. It comes amid talks with the government over a new minimum wage. The strike had shut down the national grid and disrupted flights across the country. This was the fourth strike by two of Nigeria's biggest unions since President Bola Tinubu took office last year. And Tokyo's government will launch a dating app to boost its birth rate. Users will have to submit documents to prove that they're single and willing to get married. Last year, births in Japan dropped to a new low. What a day it has been. A close election after 10 long years in India, and very few saw it coming. Most experts had written off this election. The exit polls predicted a BJP landslide, but the Indian voter had other plans. Let's look at the final tally, the final result tally. The BJP has won 240 seats as of now. You need 272 to win a simple majority in the lower house of parliament, that is the Lok Sabha. So the BJP is 32 seats short. But their alliance is quite comfortable. That's the NDA, the National Democratic Alliance. The NDA has won 292 seats. comfortably over the halfway mark of 272. The BJP is winning 36% of the votes. The NDA is winning around 45% of the votes. That's their vote share. Now we come to the opposition, the India bloc. That's what they call themselves. And this is where it gets surprising. Most exit polls predicted a rout for the opposition, but look at the actual results. The India bloc has won 233 seats. Also look at the split. The Congress party has got 99 seats. The Samajwadi party won 37 seats. The Trinamool Congress won 29 seats. And the DMK 22 seats. It's a major turnaround for them. Some of these parties had been decimated in the 2019 election, so this was their comeback. Despite not getting a majority, their mood was celebratory. Take a look.
नैतिक हार है जो व्यक्ति बार-बार अपने नाम से
जहां तक आप हमारी मदद कर सकते थे उसी लेवल तक मदद की देखिए
It's certainly a moral victory, but not enough to change the government. We'll discuss the big takeaways, but first the political map of India. In 2014, the BJP took India by storm. They swept to power with a majority of their own. In 2019, they did the unthinkable. They expanded their seats even more. But cut to 2024 and things have changed. The BJP has lost ground in the Hindi heartland, and that's where the opposition has gained. Let's look at the key takeaways here. Number one, Modi returns, but no majority. A third term is very rare in Indian elections. Only one Prime Minister has achieved it in the past, and that's Jawaharlal Nehru. So Prime Minister Modi is now joining an elite list. Of course, this time in a coalition. He will need his NDA allies to pass legislations, mainly the TDP, which has 16 seats, and the JDU with 12 seats. Takeaway number two. Divisions within the BJP have been exposed. We heard a lot of pre-poll rumors of the RSS being sidelined, of regional leaders being swapped out, and of discontent in the local ranks. Now we'll know. We don't know if any of this was true, but these numbers will fuel that conversation again. Just look at the turncoats. Leaders who defected from the opposition to the BJP, around 25% of BJP's candidates this time were turncoats. Did that affect the grassroots support? Chances are it did. Takeaway number three, a revival for the Congress party. It's taken almost 10 years. They won 44 seats in 2014. They won 52 seats in 2019, but this time they've nearly doubled the tally. And it's not just about the numbers, it's also about where the numbers came from. The Congress always struggled in direct contests with the BJP, but that was not the case this time. Case in point, Rajasthan. A straight contest between the Congress and BJP in the state of Rajasthan. The BJP won 14 seats, the Congress won 8. Another example is Telangana. 8 seats for the BJP, 8 seats for the Congress party. A third example is Karnataka. The BJP won 17 seats here, but the Congress held on for 9. This was not the case in 2019. A straight fight between the BJP and the Congress meant only one thing, a BJP victory. But that has changed in this election. Takeaway number 4, the return of regional parties as kingmakers. The TMC has won 29 seats. That's 7 more than the last election. The Samajwadi party has won 37 seats. They had won just 5 in 2019. Also the TDP, the Telugu Desam party, they have won 3 seats. They had rather won 3 seats in 2019, but this time they won 16 seats. Plus, they're forming the state government in Andhra Pradesh. Now, these parties have improved their position and they are now kingmakers, especially the TDP. Their support is key for Prime Minister Modi. Both Modi and Amit Shah reportedly called the TDP chief after the results came out. Now, takeaway number 5, grassroots problems. If you look at the headline numbers, India's economy is doing very well, like the GDP or inflation. But when it comes to the last mile delivery, perhaps the voters wanted more. Just look at rural India. The NDA lost 30 seats in the rural parts of the country. But the India bloc gained 62 seats in rural India. What does that mean? There was rural discontent in India. That's what the numbers say. Takeaway number 6. The Ram Mandir dividend was largely absent. It was supposed to be the BJP centerpiece, their trump card, but it may not have worked. And why do I say this? Well, look at the Lok Sabha constituency where the Ram temple is located. It's called Faizabad. Guess who is winning it? The opposition alliance, the Samajwadi party, is in the lead there. The BJP is trailing by more than 54,000 votes in Faizabad, home to Ayodhya and the Ram temple. And that is telling. And finally, takeaway number 7, the BJP's South push was not quite a success. The Prime Minister spent a lot of time there, especially in the state of Tamil Nadu, but it has not delivered. They did open their account in Kerala, but they got 0 seats in Tamil Nadu. In hindsight, was this the best strategy? Should the BJP have focused more on the Hindi heartland? It's easy to ask now, but elections are all about making the right choices. Everyone expected this election to be a referendum on the NDA, on 10 years of their rule, but the campaign veered away from it. There was a lot of focus on the Congress manifesto, on wealth redistribution, and on emotional appeals. Perhaps even that hurt the NDA. Having said that, let's not forget one thing. Returning to power after 10 years is not an easy thing, especially in a country as diverse as India. Of course, this is just the first chapter. We will have a lot of heated coalition talks this week. Make sure you track all of it on Firstpost. It was quite a dramatic day. It began with political pundits warming up for a BJP landslide, but as the initial trend started pouring in, the markets tanked. Later in the morning, we saw celebrations both in the BJP and the Congress camps. The BJP because they looked poised to remain in power for a third term, and the Congress because they beat expectations and doubled their tally. This was a rare counting day where everyone was on the edge of their seats, and the next few days may not be very different because both the BJP and the Congress are meeting their allies. They will shape their strategy for government formation. Despite the reduced margins, the numbers are clearly stacked in the BJP's favour. Prime Minister Modi said he's forming the next government. He addressed BJP workers just a short while back. He called the result a win and a historic mandate for the BJP and its allies.
लगातार तीसरी बार सरकार बननी तय है। देशवासियों ने भाजपा पर, एनडीए पर पूर्ण विश्वास जताया है। आज की ये विजय दुनिया के सबसे बड़े लोकतंत्र की जीत है।
The BJP was responding to the opposition. Earlier today, Congress leaders used their gains to mount an attack on the Prime Minister. The Congress called the result a victory for democracy and an indictment of Prime Minister Modi.
The country has unanimously and clearly stated, we do not want Mr. Narendra Modi and Mr. Amit Shah to be involved in the running of this country.
In West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee echoed similar sentiment. She is the Chief Minister of the state, also the leader of the Trinamool Congress or TMC. West Bengal is an important state. It sends 42 lawmakers to the lower house of India's parliament. And the TMC is winning the majority of those seats.
मोदी जी सिंगल लार्जेस्ट मेजॉरिटी पाएनी पाए धरते होच्छे टीडीपी और पाए धरते होच्छे नीतीश डोंट आस्क मी एनडीए इट इज गॉन इट इज अ लॉस्ट केस आपका मैजिक गया यू हैव लॉस्ट योरसेल्फ योर क्रेडिबिलिटी
So how will this battle shape up in the coming days? There are two scenarios from here. The first one is obvious. The BJP forms a government with its NDA allies. It's a clear path to power. It needs just 3 allies. Support from just 3 parties can take the NDA towards the majority mark. The Janata Dal United or JDU from Bihar, the Telugu Desam Party or TDP from Andhra Pradesh and the Shiv Sena from Maharashtra. That's all they need. The BJP's tally right now is around 240. The majority mark is 272. So they need another 30 to 32 seats. And these partners could easily fill that gap. As per the current trends, the NDA is leading in well over 290 seats, so they can comfortably form the government as long as the allies stay with them. And that's a big condition. Because here the BJP must face the reality of coalition politics. Retaining allies is not easy. Some of these biggest partners are very fickle. The TDP and the JDU. They're known to switch sides at a whim. Now, the BJP will have to sweeten the deal for them, most likely accommodate them in the cabinet. And they must move fast because reports say that the opposition is already making moves. They're reaching out to both the JDU and the TDP, apparently to pull them away from the NDA. So will the India bloc mount a bid to form government? That's the second scenario. The alliance will be holding a meeting tomorrow. The Congress says they will discuss all possibilities with their allies. But how realistic are their chances? At the moment, it looks like a long shot. The India alliance has a total of 10 parties. They have a total of 234 seats. They need another 38 to 40 to reach the halfway mark. The JDU and TDP together have a little less than 30 seats. So even if the India bloc gets both the JDU and TDP into their fold, it won't be enough. And it's a big if. Either way, the BJP cannot afford to take them lightly. It now faces a stronger and rejuvenated opposition. Now let's talk about the other set of numbers that India tracked closely today. The markets. Indian stock market indices crashed today. It was bloodbath with the Sensex and the Nifty falling by up to 8% at one point. 8% fall. There was a slight recovery as the afternoon wore on, but the markets were still down by almost 6% at the closing bell. Let's show you the numbers. The Sensex closed at a little over 72,000, down by more than 4,000 points, which is 5.74%. The Nifty fared slightly worse, closing below 22,000 points, so down by over 1,300 points or just shy of 6%. Now, for those who don't follow the markets, these numbers may not mean very much. So let me break it down for you. Indian investors lost trillions of rupees today. At one point, about 39 trillion rupees. There are 12 zeros in a trillion. 39 trillion rupees is about 467 billion US dollars. That's how much the markets lost at one point today. So in one day, the markets turned on their heads. On Monday, they touched a record high, a market cap of 424 trillion rupees, which is a very, very big number. It's a record high. But today, that number is below the 400 trillion rupee mark again. Let's look at where the major losses took place. Using the Nifty indices, the Nifty 50 tracks the shares of 50 Indian companies. 42 out of these 50 companies saw their share prices tank. These were the 5 worst performers today. People were rushing to get rid of these shares, and this is a direct reaction to the election results. Investors believe that these companies won't do as well without a strong BJP government in charge. When you consider the scale of today's bloodbath, it shows that the pessimism ran across industries. There are multiple Nifty indices that focus on specific industries. Let's look at how they fared today. Bank stocks are down. Automobile stocks were down. Pharma stocks, IT stocks, media stocks, almost every industry index closed in the red. There was just one outlier, that is the FMCG sector. Companies like Dabur India, Hindustan Unilever Limited and Britannia, all of them made gains. It seems that investors decided that if nothing else, people are not going to stop eating biscuits. Every other sector, however, was burnt by the electoral fallout. There can be a lot of reasons for this, but sentiment is a big one. Even though India's Prime Minister is on course to continue for a third term, even though we may have the same government and the same economic policies, the people of India are still upset. The investors, they feel that this election result will change the way the Indian economy works. And that is why they decided to dump their stocks. Do you know the last time something this disastrous happened in the Indian stock markets? It was in 2020, when the Wuhan virus locked India down. Investors are effectively comparing these election results to the pandemic. Of course, Most companies themselves won't be hit. Their supply chains are still functional. Their operations are still running. So tomorrow should be business as usual for most employees at most companies, the private ones anyway. We can't say the same about public sector firms because state-owned companies are dependent on the powers that be. They rely on the government to run them. So these elections will matter for state-run enterprises, and that was also reflected in the market wipeout. ONGC, the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, lost almost 17% of its share value. The state power company NTPC was about 15.5% down. Shares of the State Bank of India were down by more than 14%, and public sector banks in general were hammered. The Nifty PSU Bank Index was down by over 15%. So public sector companies accelerated the market free fall and left multiple shareholders holding the bag. The election results have left most investors poorer than they have been in months. And it could take a while for them to start betting on the markets again. But India's economic fundamentals have not changed between yesterday and today. So the Indian markets will recover from this shock. Eventually, the emotional reaction will end, investors will come to terms with the political reality, and the markets will go back to reflecting India's economic growth. So the markets were the biggest casualty, but this election also saw some other big upsets and spectacular wins. Let's look at those key contests of 2024, starting with the losses. The biggest one came from Amethi. Union Minister Smriti Irani lost her seat. She is the Minister of Women and Child Development, also the Minister of Minority Affairs. Smriti Irani was against Kishori Lal Sharma of the Congress Party. Now, Amethi is a district in Uttar Pradesh. It's a high-profile political battleground. It has long been a Congress bastion. Rahul Gandhi made his electoral debut from Amethi in the year 2004. He won the same seat in 2009 and 2014. But in the last election, that is 2019, he lost to Smriti Irani. And it was a big upset. Back then, he promised to win back Amethi. And while he may not have done it himself, his party has. The Congress's Kishori Lal Sharma has won Amethi by more than 1 lakh votes, which brings us to loss number 2. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, India's IT minister. Chandrasekhar was fighting from Thiruvananthapuram. He was up against Shashi Tharoor, a Congress leader and 3-time MP from the city. So it was going to be a tough battle. But Rajiv Chandrasekhar seemed confident. Now remember, the BJP has never won this seat or any seat in Kerala in the past. And this time, after a close fight, they lost Thiruvananthapuram. Shashi Tharoor won the seat for the 4th time. Loss number 3, Prajwal Revanna, belongs to the JDS. Revanna is the grandson of H.D. Devagowda, former Prime Minister of India. He was a sitting MP from Hassan in Karnataka. It was quite an easy seat to win from. But Prajwal Revanna was accused in a sexual abuse scandal. It involved hundreds of women. Revanna is said to have fled the country, but has since returned and has been arrested. He's also lost his Hassan seat. Loss number 4. And this one is about 2 leaders, 2 former chief ministers of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti. Both lost today. Omar Abdullah was defeated by Sheikh Abdul Rashid, a former MLA who is currently in jail in a terror funding case. Mehbooba Mufti lost to Mia Altaf Ahmed, a spiritual leader revered in the valley. Loss number 5, Naveen Patnaik, the Chief Minister of Odisha. He's been ruling the state since the year 2000. That's 24 years of him being in power. But now that rule seems to be coming to an end because the BJP has stormed the state of Odisha both in Assembly and Lok Sabha elections. The BJP has come on top. They're expected to form a state government in Odisha. And finally, loss number 6, Jagan Mohan Reddy, the chief of the YSR Congress Party and the chief minister of the state of Andhra Pradesh. He is under fire in the state for its poor financial health and his bad policies. His party is trailing in Lok Sabha seats. And they've lost the assembly election in the state. So a double whammy for Jagan Reddy. Now let's tell you about his nemesis, who also happens to be one of the biggest winners in this election. That's Chandrababu Naidu, chief of the Telugu Desam Party or TDP, also a former chief minister of the state. Naidu has emerged victorious after suffering major setbacks. He was jailed by the Jagan Reddy government, released in October last year. And in these 7 months, from October to now, he has turned the tables. Chandrababu Naidu came together with Pawan Kalyan's Janasena. He stitched a crucial alliance with the BJP. He's won the assembly elections in the state, and now he may emerge as kingmaker in the BJP-led NDA. So a complete turn of fortunes. Which brings us to winner number 2, Nitish Kumar, the Chief Minister of Bihar. If there's one thing that he's known for, it's shifting allegiances. Just months ago, Nitish Kumar was part of the India bloc. He was part of the opposition alliance. He was one of its founding members, in fact. But just ahead of the election, he switched. He joined the NDA, and now he too is a kingmaker. Our next winner is from Uttar Pradesh, the state with 80 Lok Sabha seats. They say the road to power in Delhi goes via UP. For 2 terms, the BJP seemed or was unbeatable in Uttar Pradesh, but this time they've suffered a big upset, all thanks to this man, Akhilesh Yadav, leader of the Samajwadi Party or SP. In alliance with the Congress Party, the SP gave a tough challenge to the BJP. Which brings us to the last winner of this election, or the last winner on our list. Kangana Ranaut, a Bollywood actor turned politician. She won from Mandi in Himachal Pradesh. This was her poll debut. She beat Vikramaditya Singh of the Congress Party. And we also have some unlikely and shocking wins, like Amrit Pal Singh, a Khalistani separatist who is in prison. He contested the election while being in prison and also won it from Punjab's Khadur Sahib seat. It's a dangerous message from the voters. Another headliner is Indore, where the winner is Nota. It stands for none of the above. You vote Nota if you do not like any of the candidates on the list. It does not impact the election really, but it's more of a rejection by the voter. In Indore, more than 2 lakh people voted Nota. Why? Because it was a Congress appeal. Just ahead of the election, the Congress candidate switched parties and joined the BJP. So the Congress party asked the people of Indore to vote Nota. The BJP still won, but the message from the voters cannot be ignored. So one thing is clear, the era of one-party rule is over, at least for the next 5 years. We are back in coalition mode. Some of you may remember how it was. A lot of power sharing, a lot of discussions, and a lot of disagreements. India first saw a coalition government in the late 1970s. This was after the emergency. By the 1990s, it was normalized. Regional parties were on the rise, so no national party could win alone. But all that changed in 2014, when Prime Minister Modi rose to power with a simple majority. And he improved his tally in the next election in 2019. But now the empire has struck back. The question is, how will this affect his administration? First, let's look at some basic factors. Number 1, Modi is used to single-party rule, both as Chief Minister and Prime Minister. He never had to deal with a coalition. So his style is also built like that, very personalized, very decisive, which is the opposite of how coalitions work. So the question is, how quickly can he adjust? That's the first factor. Now, factor number 2, his partners are tough customers. The Telugu Desam Party of Andhra Pradesh and the Janata Dal United of Bihar. This is the TDP's 3rd alliance with the BJP. They have walked out twice in the past, once in 2004 and then again in 2018. So like I said, a tricky customer. The second is Nitish Kumar of the JDU. He's the Chief Minister of Bihar. He's also notorious for switching sides. The latest instance was in January this year when Nitish Kumar switched from the opposition camp to the BJP camp. We just told you about it. So both are fickle allies. Managing them will be tough. And finally, the third factor, give and take. That's what coalitions are all about. The BJP came into this election with some big promises, like accelerating the new Citizenship Amendment law, implementing one nation, one election, and a uniform civil code. Those promises may have to wait. Some of them would require a supermajority in parliament, which is now beyond reach, and the rest will require coalition support. And these are the 3 main factors to watch out for. Ministries will have to be shared, objectives will have to be re-evaluated, and things may generally take more time because now there will be more people to convince. But is that good for governance? Or could it slow down reforms? Well, there are 2 schools of thought here, 2 ways of looking at it. 1, yes, reforms will slow down. You have more parties to convince and more leaders to get on board. I'll give you a few examples. In 2019, the BJP enacted 2 important decisions. They banned triple talaq and they scrapped Article 370. Guess who opposed both the decisions? Nitish Kumar's JDU. He was allied with the BJP back then, but the BJP had its own majority, so the JDU support did not matter. In the current context, that could be harder. So yes, some reforms will slow down. But here's the second school of thought. A coalition will increase checks and balances. It will ensure laws are multi-partisan. I guess a lot will depend on political acumen, because we have seen major reforms in the coalition era too. In fact, the BJP has a great example to follow, that of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who headed a much weaker coalition, yet he managed some very important reforms. He liberalized the insurance sector, he introduced telecom reforms, and he privatized state-owned companies. So coalitions are not a license to not reform. It means that you will have to work harder, you'll have to take more risks, make more concessions, and be willing to take a step back. Having said that, the proof is in the pudding. What we mentioned is based on past coalitions, none of which had such a popular prime minister, and that could also play a key role. Modi remains the most powerful leader in the country. He also has 10 years of experience that could give him more leeway than other coalition prime ministers. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Now let's talk about the biggest losers in this election. The exit polls. They predicted a landslide for the incumbent. They said Modi will come back stronger than ever and the BJP alliance would win anywhere between 350 to 400 seats, which is clearly not turning out to be the case. The pollsters were way off the mark, and not for the first time. Their record has been patchy. They've got many elections wrong. But how do they end up so far from the ground reality? And are such upsets limited to India? Our next report tells you.
The last phase of India's 7th-session parliamentary election ended on Saturday, and immediately after voting ended, the predictions had begun. India has a rule: no exit polls until the entire election ends. So, pollsters had been waiting for weeks, eager to share their findings. So after polling ended on Saturday, out came the exit polls. This table shows a summary of the polls. Compare that to the results you've been seeing all day. You'll instantly see a gap. None of these polls got it right. They all say that the BJP-led National Democratic Alliance would sweep the election, that the NDA would get between 350 and 400 seats. Looking at the results right now, it seems the polls were all off by about 100 seats. In India's 543-seat parliament, that's a big margin of error. So it raises questions about the credibility of these polls. Or rather, it lends credibility to jibes from the opposition, like this.
एग्जिट पोल में अभी उन्होंने किसी ने 350 दिया है, किसी ने 400 दिया है. मैं तो हैरान हूं कि सिर्फ 400 क्यों दिया? 700 सीट दे सकते थे बीजेपी को.
The Indian opposition parties have been undermining the exit polls or hinting at potential sabotage. Like with this tweet from the Congress, where they said that the BJP were laying a trap, that they were using exit polls to sabotage the verdict. Clearly, that was not the case. So perhaps there's no hidden agenda behind the exit polls. Maybe people just didn't want to reveal who they voted for. Because how does an exit poll work? It's not as though the pollsters talk to every single voter. They just take a small sample. They ask a few people who they voted for and extrapolate the data to give a bigger picture. So if your sample gives you false information, your result will be skewed. This does happen from time to time. In 2021, exit polls got it wrong in West Bengal. The state had held elections. Most exit polls predicted that Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee would lose to the BJP. That didn't happen. It was similar in the case of Bihar in 2020. Back then, no one had expected the BJP-JDU alliance to win. But win they did. Mistakes have happened at the national level as well. Back in 2004, no one expected Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee to lose. But his coalition, the NDA, was defeated by the Congress-led UPA, proving the polls wrong. And this isn't just an Indian phenomenon. In the year 2000, we had an infamous case from the US. Exit polls predicted that Al Gore won the state of Florida, but Florida had voted for Bush, and that changed the outcome of the US presidential race. Throughout history, across the world, pollsters have got it wrong, and they face a lot of flack for it every time. But instead of taking exit polls as gospel truth, maybe we should consider them as guidelines instead. That would probably prevent quite a few shocks.
Now, in the last 10 years, the Indian voter has spoken clearly and loudly. In 2014, they voted for change. In 2019, they voted for stability and security. So what is their message this time? What have they tried to say in the 2024 election? We tried to break it down in some key points. First of all, the BJP still remains the biggest party at the centre. It has held on to its national vote share, and its leader Narendra Modi still remains a dominant force in Indian politics. He still has the mandate to lead. But the BJP no longer has brute majority, and that change signals a churn. A clear urban-rural divide has emerged. A large chunk of rural votes went in favour of the India bloc, that is the alliance of the opposition parties. And what was the reason behind this? Let me show you a survey from April this year. It covered voters across 19 states. They were asked a simple question: which are the biggest issues that you care about? And their top 3 issues were unemployment, price rise and development. More than 60% of the voters wanted action on these 3 fronts: unemployment, price rise, development. But when you look closely at the numbers, you saw a gap. The rich urban voters were less likely to raise these issues, but they mattered a lot more to the rural respondents, especially unemployment. It was their top issue. Some voters did recognize India's improving international image due to its expanding economy and growing role in geopolitics, but that number was quite small. India's global standing was a significant issue for just 2% of the voters. And these findings are revealing. The Indian voter is sending a message here that issues like jobs are on top of their mind. They appreciate the growth of the Indian economy, but they want the dividends of this growth to trickle down to the grassroots. Just consider this number. More than 800 million Indians rely on the government's free ration scheme for food. 800 million. So there are significant signs of distress now, and that may have influenced the decision of the voters. The next government, the new government, is expected to present a full budget next month. It would be interesting to see how this result influences the government's spending decisions. And that is the first takeaway. The second message is about the comeback of regional players, from the Samajwadi party in Uttar Pradesh to the TDP in Andhra Pradesh to the Shiv Sena under Uddhav Thackeray in Maharashtra and the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha or JMM in Jharkhand. These regional outfits have all made gains. So voters have trusted them, their local representatives, to raise their issues in the lower house of parliament. They've rejected what many call outsiders or parachute candidates. Now, I have some interesting numbers for you. This is about the BJP's candidates. On at least 16 seats, they fielded these parachute candidates or turncoats. And how did they fare? As of this evening, just 5 of them had won. 10 candidates had lost the election. The remaining 1 candidate is still leading on their seat. In the last 2 elections, this was not the case. The previous elections were more presidential in style, where the focus was on just the Prime Minister. But now opposition players and regional parties are back in the fray. They've regained relevance on the national stage. Elections are a serious business, but they also have their light moments. And this time, those light moments were ruled and defined by memes, which are all over social media, so much so that even the Prime Minister shared one during the poll season. Now the election is over, but it appears that the meme fest has just begun. On result day, they focused on 3 things: the kingmaker, exit polls, and of course the bloodbath on the Lal Street. Our next report brings you the highlights.
This election has been quite the surprise. It has defied exit polls. The opposition has made good gains. The BJP is short of majority on its own. And social media can't stop making memes about it. This election has 2 kingmakers. Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar. And it looks like social media just can't keep calm.
आप कौन? कहाँ लगाया फोन? आपका क्या नाम है? हमसे क्या काम है? आपके पास नंबर आया कैसे?
Will they stick with the NDA? Will they shift allegiances? Will they help the India bloc form a government? It's all social media is talking about. Nitish Kumar as godfather, Rahul Gandhi trying to woo him, Nitish Kumar fielding multiple calls. But when social media wasn't talking about kingmakers, they had two other favourite topics, exit polls and the stock markets. Most exit polls predicted a sure-shot majority for the BJP and almost 400 seats for the NDA. That didn't happen. It caused the stock market to surge on Monday, but the results did not live up to expectations. The markets crashed and people couldn't stop talking about it.
ये अभी ट्रेलर है, पिक्चर अभी बाकी है, मैं बोला है ना। ओ भाई निकल बाहर ओ भाई।
So, is it a moe for the BJP or is it a khela hobe for the India bloc? We'll know in the coming days. But one thing is for sure, the elections may come to an end, but the meme fest is just starting.
How should the world see this election? It matters a lot right now. India is one of the most important players on the global stage, so India's elections matter. The world has gotten used to dealing with Prime Minister Modi, and the reverse is also true. The Prime Minister has gotten used to dealing with the world. He's been the face of India's foreign policy. The question is, will that continue? Or will a coalition force him to focus more on domestic politics? It looks unlikely as of now. India's foreign policy is largely multi-partisan, plus Prime Minister Modi is not new on the stage. So partners and rivals should not expect a change, not unless something drastic happens later this week. But this isn't just about politics, it's also about perception. We've seen a lot of critical commentary, especially from Western countries. They have questioned India's judicial process. They've questioned the timing of this election, even the free and fair nature of it. Well, this should answer all the critics. India's democracy is alive and kicking. The ruling side saw its majority cut down, yet Indians did not resort to violence. They did not march to the parliament, nor did they say the election was stolen. India accepted the result. Same with the opposition. They did raise issues with the polling process, but they too accepted the results. In fact, that's the first thing that the Congress president said, that we accept the results. Will this satisfy the Western agencies and pollsters? Or is Indian democracy still in danger? Look at this Western Democracy Index. In 2014, it ranked India at 27. By 2023, the ranking dropped to 41. India was dubbed as a flawed democracy. Another index is VDEM. It is prepared by a university in Sweden. In 2018, it declared India an electoral autocracy. But look at today's results. Is this how an autocracy votes? Is this how a flawed democracy votes? The ruling BJP has got around 37% of the votes. Compare that to real autocracies. In Russia, President Putin won 87% of the votes. In Iran, the last presidential winner won 72% of the votes. That is what autocracy looks like. Yet the West wants to club India with those countries. It's simply a smear campaign. Today's results should serve as a wake-up call. India's democracy is not in danger. India's voters are not misguided. They're actually quite intelligent. Just look at how they vote. In Delhi, all 7 seats went to the BJP. But in assembly elections, it's the opposite. They vote for the Aam Aadmi Party. Same in the state of Karnataka. Last year, they voted for a Congress government in Karnataka, but this year, they voted for BJP at the centre. Even Odisha to some extent. In the Lok Sabha, the BJP is sweeping the state. They are winning 19 out of 21 seats. But in the assembly election, it's much closer. The BJP is still forming a government. But they are winning only 53% of the seats. What does that tell you? That the Indian voter is very intelligent, quite different from what you see in other countries. Take the US, for example. 50 American states may vote in this election. the upcoming presidential election, but only 7 swing states matter. The rest never change their mind. Record-breaking inflation, no problem. Endless foreign wars, no problem. A blue state will remain blue and a red state will remain red. Yet it's the Indian voter who's misguided. The West should stop underestimating and insulting Indian voters. They should learn to respect India's process. As for the global South, it's inspirational. Democracy's stock is going down globally. We are seeing coups and hostile takeovers. So this election sends out a strong message that democracy works. It is the best form of government, not just in rich Western countries, but everywhere in the world. So India should be proud of this election. It has sent a message to everyone, to the West, that India's democracy is healthy, and to the global South, that democracy still works. I guess that's a good note to end on. That's all we have for you on this special edition of Vantage. The world's biggest election may have come to an end, but the next few days will be crucial. So stay with Firstpost for all the updates and analysis, and we'll see you on the show tomorrow.